There we go. We'll try this again. Good evening, and welcome to the October 3rd meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you please all rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Hastings.
Ready? Begin.
Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Keisha. Okay. All right. Mr. Romero, roll call, please. You're going to pull that away from me.
Chair Rossler,
Here.
Vice Chair Grimm,
Here.
Commissioner De Jesus, absent, Commissioner Hastings,
Here.
Commissioner Looney, Commissioner Savage.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners, you've been provided a copy of the minutes, draft minutes for our meeting of way back in June 20th. I have one correction, and then we could hear a motion to approve. The first line says that the meeting was called to order by Vice Chair Grimm, and I actually was at that meeting. So we'll change that to Chairman Rossler. And any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Commissioner Hastings?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of our June 20th meeting. Please cast your vote and lock it in. And the motion is approved unanimously of the commissioners here. Next item on our agenda is changes to the agenda. Any changes tonight, Ms. Chow?
Good evening, Chairman Rossler. No changes for tonight. I just wanted to bring up student commissioners. I don't know if they're in the audience today. Daphne Ortega and Julia Takano, please. Are you here? You are. Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to acknowledge the student commissioners in the audience.
Check in with us after the meeting's over, if you would, please, okay?
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is oral communications. This is a time that the commission sets aside for members of the public to address the commission on items that are not on our agenda. You would have need to have filled out a speaker slip, and I have none. Anyone wishing to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda? All right, very well. We will move on to our first public hearing. Grateful Head Smoke Shop. Mr. Mangasarian, your staff report, please.
Got it. Good evening, Chairman Rossler, commissioners, staff, and members of the public. It is my pleasure to present to you tonight an application for a special use permit for Grateful Head Smoke Shop to be located at 1010 East Vista Way, Suite E, permit P23-0190. Proposed project is a special use permit to establish a smoke shop within an existing 800 square foot commercial tenant space. Business operations would consist of sales of smoking paraphernalia. This would include water pipes, hookahs, lighters, vaporizers, ashtrays, and custom design and handmade glass pipes. Tobacco or tobacco derivatives would not be permitted for sale. Conditions of approval prohibit tobacco sales under this permit. Minor tenant improvements are requested for the required permits, and hours of operation are proposed to be 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Property is currently zoned C1 commercial. General plan designation is also general commercial, GC. This is the existing site plan highlighting the location of the tenant space. No proposed changes are proposed to the site plan at this time. This is the proposed floor plan, which would include just minor tenant improvements for some display cases and cabinets. Per section 18.02.624 of the Vista Municipal Code, smoke shop means a retail place of business engaged primarily in the sale of any one or combination of tobacco, tobacco derivatives, non-tobacco substances produced for the purposes of smoking, and any type of paraphernalia or accessory manufactured or sold for the purpose of smoking, ingesting, preparing, or storing any other proceeding. Although the business is not proposing sales of tobacco, a tobacco retail license would still be required per Vista Municipal Code Section 3.56. Under this code, tobacco retail license is required at any location at which tobacco-related retailing is to occur. A smoke shop is allowed in the C1 zone, subject to the issuance of a special use permit per Vista Development Code 18.38.020.33. The primary considerations for approval of the special use permit are site's functionality and the compatibility of the proposed use with surrounding land uses. A tobacco store may not be located within 1,000 feet of any public or private elementary school or secondary school per 18.58.475 of the Vista Development Code. The nearest school to the site is the Foothill Oak Elementary School, approximately 2,200 feet northeast of the project site. Vista Magnet School, about 3,600 feet south of the project site. And Vista High School, located approximately 4,200 feet northwest of the project site. The proposed use is consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plan. The proposed use in the manner to be conducted is permitted in the applicable zone and will conform to applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. The site for the proposed use has a size that is sufficient to reasonably accommodate the planned activities. The design, location, size, and operating characteristics of the proposed use will be compatible with the existing and planned land uses in the vicinity. The proposed use at its location will provide the neighborhood and the city with a service or facility that will contribute to its general welfare. The proposed use and its operation will not be unduly detrimental to the health and safety or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, property or improvements in the vicinity, or fiscal or economic interests of the city of Vista. Staff's recommendation is to adopt resolution approving the special use permit for a smoke shop located at 1010 East Vista Way, Suite E. And that concludes staff's presentation. Applicant is also in attendance to answer any questions and has a quick presentation of their own.
Okay, if we could hear from the applicant then? Are you Mr. Ortega?
Yes, I'm Mr. Ortega. How's it going?
So here's a little bit about,
Step just a little closer to the microphone.
good evening, so.
Let's get the presentation up first. Yeah.
So here's a little bit about our history. We were actually located in Vista. Our original location was 1542 South Santa Fe Avenue. We were right next to Buena Vista Liquor Store. And this was founded, Smoke Shop was founded in 2018. My husband actually took ownership in 2020, in May 2020. And in 2022, September of last year, the property owner sold the property. So it kind of put us in a limbo where we were going to move to. So products sold, majority of our products are glass. We're heavy in the glass industry, just it's artwork. We love local artists, not nationwide artists. That's what our customers come here for, to our shop for. We also sell electronic devices, accessories, CBD products. Before We were in an unincorporated area of Vista, so we did have to comply with the non-flavored tobacco sales and the not selling the vapes. So we weren't selling, even before that, it would say less than probably 1% of our sales were tobacco. So here's a little bit of an example of the glass that we sell, all different varieties of prices. And then again, we heard the city council's concerns with tobacco sales in Vista, and we were willing to comply with not selling tobacco for the special use permit. Like I said, the sales were less than 1% prior to 2021. We actually stopped selling tobacco completely in January of 2021. Security, we do have 24/7 camera surveillance, security system through night security. We have no history of incidents, no police coming to the shop for any incidents at all. And we would have the requirement of being 21 and older to enter our shop, sorry. And that's it.
Very good. Any questions of staff or the applicant? Commissioner Hastings?
When you talk about electronic devices, what are they? What kind?
So basically, water pipes where you don't need a lighter. So electric water pipes, which it's big for tobacco use, and we pretty much specialize in safer ways to provide ways of people smoking.
Thank you.
Commissioner Looney?
Question for staff. Notice that a store cannot be located within 1,000 feet of public or private school. Does Calvary Chapel Vista have a private school on campus, or do we know?
I'll say that one more time. Which
Does
school?
Calvary Chapel in Vista, because it's on that same street?
I know that's a church use. They may have daycare services at some points, but I don't think they're licensed as a full school.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that was my only concern. Thanks.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, just a comment and then a question. The comment is, I'm glad somebody under 50 still remembers who the Grateful Dead are. The question is, the comments from the sheriff or the conditions, they say install a sign indicating no loitering, but there's no condition there that specifically prohibits loitering, so I assume that's already covered under another ordinance that the city adheres to?
The applicant can put up the no loitering signs at the entrance of the business if they see fit, but there would be no loitering outside or people smoking outside if that's the concern.
Well, no, I was just wondering how that would be enforced if there's no condition that says no loitering, unless it's part of the municipal code or something.
Commissioner Grimm, that is part of the municipal code over here. So it is in the municipal code, and code enforcement staff would be responsible for that enforcement.
Very good, thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. To speak at the public hearing, you need to, as I said before, fill out one of our speaker slips. You'll have 3 minutes to address the commission on your concerns about the application. I have no speaker slips been for this application. Anyone wishing to address the commission on come forward, give us your name and address, and make sure you fill out a slip for Ms. Romero.
Good evening, Julia Shriver, 1425 Ville Terrace. I would check with Calvary to make sure they don't have a school.
Okay, we will do that. All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners. Okay, anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Savage.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm on track here with the protocol. So do we need to check in to see if they have a school now? Just not clear on where we stand with that issue then.
Staff has done the review and to make sure that there is not the case as far as proximity to the school. And so there's no further need for checking on that.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure we're on the page.
Right. Commissioner Looney?
That was my concern, because at one time, Calvary Chapel did have
did.
a private school on campus. So that was my concern.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Savage?
Yeah, I'd like to move to adopt the resolution per the staff recommendation.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the application for a special use permit for a smoke shop. All in favor, cast your votes and lock them in. And the motion passes unanimously of the commissioners here, 5-0. Very good. All right. That concludes the first item on our agenda, and as the staff is switching out to for the next application, Ms. Guy, could you remind us of our voting obligations on general plan amendments?
Pursuant to Government Code Section 65354, an affirmative vote recommending approval requires a majority of the total membership of the commission. So that would be 4 votes.
All right. Ms. Chow, when you're ready.
Good evening, Chairman Rossler, Planning Commissioners. I'm Patsy Chow. I'm the Acting Director of Community Development Department, City Planner. Pleased to be here this evening to present to you this public hearing item concerning a general plan amendment, a zone change, specific plan amendment, site development plan, and a tentative subdivision map for a project named Kencho Housing. It's P22-0282. So just to give everyone a little bit of background on this, Pheasant Hill specific plan was adopted by City Council back in September 11th, 2007. At that time, the proposal for consideration of 15 single-family homes, individual lots, and there was 1 access point off of Lago de Loma Drive. Then later on in 2018, Pheasant Hill specific plan was amended to consider a site development plan, a tentative subdivision map, that was then approved by City Council at that time in May of 2018 in consideration of 24 single-family homes, also with access to Lago de Loma as well as Guajome Street. Tidelight Partners, a developer, purchased the site in 2022, and there was also the additional 2 lots that were purchased at 212 Guajome Street and 446 Lago de Loma Drive. The Planning Commission saw a project through an early design review back on May 17th, 2022 for 181 apartment units. Subsequent to that, Tideline actually formally submitted a project in August of 2022, and that brings us to today for consideration of the project. So the proposed project, as I mentioned before, it's a GPA with a zone change, specific plan amendment, a site development plan, and a tentative subdivision map on this 4.59 acre parcel, consideration of 183 apartment units altogether at a density of 40 dwelling units per acre. There are a total of 4 residential buildings, which I'll show it in the upcoming slides, There's one 4-story building and 3 3-story buildings with a particular amenity, a floor actually added to the top of Building 2. Total of 266 parking spaces, 184 covered in 1- and 2-story parking garages, and also 82 uncovered parking spaces. Total of 14 accessible spaces, 27 are actually plumbed and ready for electrical vehicle charging equipment, and that is part of the total of 266 parking spaces. Drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, all the associated infrastructure is part of the project. And also with the project, we have outdoor recreational areas, a pool house, clubhouse, playground area, outdoor seating areas, and a rooftop amenity space, again, as part of Building 2. So the proposed project in terms of unit types, it's a mix of studio units, 1 and 2 bedroom. As shown on this slide, the breakdown is percentage is for studio units is 32% of the project with 58 units, 1 bedroom, 90 units, and 2 bedroom, 35 units. 13% of the total count, or 24 units, are actually affordable to moderate income households that are earning 80% to 120% of the area median income. A regulatory agreement will be in place to actually regulate these particular units, and the breakdown is commensurate with the distribution of the units as far as market rate. So you have 8 studio units, 12 one-bedroom, and 4 two-bedroom units that would be considered affordable to moderate income households. As far as off-site improvements, there are pedestrian improvements to connect the project site to all the nearby commercial uses, and also to serve the adjacent neighborhoods that are currently without sidewalks at this time. There will be a new sidewalk on the north side portion of Guajome Street and Laro de Loma that's extending from 201 Guajome Street west to Eddy Drive. And then there will be also a pedestrian connection, a sidewalk on the south side of Guajome Street between the project's western property line all the way to Mercantile Street. These off-site improvements would be in the form of a temporary asphalt sidewalk that's between the Eastern Railroad right-of-way and Mercantile Street. So on this particular slide, the zone identified as Pheasant Hill specific plan currently with an RM15 and R1B zone. The general plan designation is medium density at 10 dwelling units per acre and medium high density at 15 dwelling units per acre. The proposed general plan is to be mixed use at 40 dwelling units per acre, MU. And then the proposed zone is to be downtown specific plan implementation, SPI, Paseo Santa Fe District. The specific plan amendment would actually end up removing Pheasant Hill specific plan designation from the site and bringing the site into the downtown Vista specific planning area. This is just a aerial view of the project site with Laro de Loma showing the railroad tracks at the top of the screen. And the general plan, as far as I mentioned before, the proposed at 40 dwelling units per acre creates the potential for the 183 dwelling units allowed. The downtown specific plan speaks in terms of building height, where the maximum allowed is 60 feet. They have in the project 4-story buildings at 57 feet and 3-story buildings varying from 41 to 57 feet. And again, there's the amenity roof deck on top of, at the very top of Building 2. The setbacks for this project, they're meeting the front yard, the side, and the street side, which is 0 feet, and the rear yard is 15 feet. The landscaping, 10% is required. They're providing 52%. In terms of open space, the requirement is 200 square feet per unit at a total of 36,600 square feet, where 25% of that needs to be private at 9,150 square feet, and 75% needs to be common open space at 27,450. The project is exceeding these requirements. For common, it is 37,662 versus the 27,450, and the private's 19,954 compared to the required 9,150 square feet. So on this slide, one can see the buildings 1 starting on the right side of the screen, buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4 towards Guajome Street. the main driveway that actually provides access to the entire project, and there's the fire turnaround kind of towards the middle of the project. And identifying on this slide, actually have the amenities where the pool at the bottom of the screen or closer to Lago de Loma Drive at the top of the slope, but not towards the top of the slope, towards the middle, just past the buildings, you have the pool area, the amenity buildings with the pool house, the gym, the playground area, and the sitting area. All of that connected with internal access and accessible pedestrian ramps throughout the project as shown on this slide for accessibility purposes. And that's the yellow identifying area where it is connected at the bottom where the driveway is located, so there's a pedestrian ramp. So on this, the landscape plan is basically identifying where landscaping at 51.9% of the site is landscaped with slopes, outdoor recreational planting areas, and that again is exceeding the 10% requirement in the landscape technical or the landscape code manual. There is a variety of native and non-native plant materials that are being proposed as part of the project, which meets the requirement for low moderate water use. As far as Guajome Street proposed improvements, the traffic study that was prepared for the project, the local transportation study, that is LTS, short for the study, identified or evaluated particular intersections that are serving the project area. And with the particular study, it was determined that the project impact, or traffic, I should say, would not reduce the levels of service to unacceptable levels, which would be considered LOS E or F, and any of the studied intersections under that LTS. The project also includes the widening of Guajome Street and the installation of a dedicated left turn lane that's going to serve the project driveway, and that would allow traffic flow on Guajome Street with enough queuing and necessary queuing for the project driveway. That particular driveway is stop controlled through movements. All movements would be allowed in and out of that project driveway. So these are cross sections of all the buildings, 1, 2, 3, and 4. From Lago de Loma perspective, it is a representation to identify as one is standing on Lago de Loma, which is at the right side of each of these sections, and what they would be looking at. And then on building 1, basically the sight line, you're looking at the top of the building 1. Building 2, you're able to see the top floor, which is the amenity. Buildings 3 actually the same idea as it's happening on building 1. And then building 4, which is much below actually compared to the other buildings. But the point is in terms of the height is within the maximum height envelope, and then the line of sight from the Lago de Loma is a representation of what one would be experiencing from that angle. The architectural elevations identify a theme or a design which is contemporary style in nature, use of cement plaster, exterior walls, metal trellises, and patio guardrails, and exposed concrete, glazing, and metal glass door systems. The exposed eastern elevations of the parking garages or the CMU block walls, exposed concrete with a smooth finish, and the primary colors identified for the project are white and gray with silver accents. Flat roofs, obviously the case, with the cement plaster parapet, and there's perforated or louvered metal mechanical screening material. The same style obviously repeats throughout the project for building 2, and then building 3. And you can see the 2 levels of parking under the 3-story of units that's identified here, and building 4. What I wanted to point out is in terms of the unit mix, the minimum residential building areas that are identified here, they can be modified by the Planning Commission through the approval of a site development plan or the City Council at a public hearing per section 1858, 550. Some of these units are actually below the minimum required for the type of unit that's being considered. So on the studio, the required area, 400 square feet, some of the units are actually falling under the 400 square feet. And the same idea, the 1-bedroom minimum required area is 700 square feet, and the 2-bedroom, 880 square feet. So some of these units do vary, and they fall below the number. And again, they may be modified as far as the sizes as an express condition of the site development plan that's under the authority of the Planning Commission or the City Council at a public hearing. These are the visual simulations of the project from different angles as identified on the key map below. Looking at the project, number 1, from Guajome Street, and 2 and 3, and then 4 from Lado de Loma, looking into the recreation area, the pool area. A mitigated neg deck document under CEQA or California Environmental Quality Act was prepared for the proposed project. It was included as Exhibit A to Exhibit 1 in the staff report. There are mitigation requirements that are summarizing attachment Q of the MND, and a public review period took place from June 16th through July 5th this year, 2023. A total of 13 comment letters were received during the public review period. 2 were actually received after the end of the public review period. However, staff and consultants responded to all 15 letters, and all 15 letters and responses are included and contained in the attachment R of the mitigated neg deck document. The Planning Commission went through an early design review session with the applicant on May 17th, 2022, and discussed issues related to building height, density, traffic, the access on Guajome Street, the unit sizes, roof design. Out of that discussion, revisions were done to the project in order to reduce the height of the overall project from 4 stories to 3 stories, except, as I mentioned before, on Building 2, there's the amenity floor. There is one building that's still a 4-story, Building 1, but the other buildings did get a reduction to 3 stories. And Guajome Street access is shown. There is no access off of Lado de Loma. And the unit sizes, there were some 3 and 4 bedroom units that were proposed at the time. So now there are studio 1 and 2 bedrooms instead. And the roof design, as far as the contemporary style, the flat roofs, they were modified, the curvilinear, the features of the building itself, different from what the Planning Commission saw in the early design review meeting back in 2022. So, and the applicant is here in the audience, and they can speak in more detail, if you like, in terms of the changes over time that occurred with the design of the project. In terms of the public policy consideration, the general plan for designation for the site is AMD and MHD, as mentioned before, and the project is proposing this general plan amendment to change that land use to mixed use, MU at 40 dwelling units per acre. That results in the 183 units on the site. So therefore, with the approval of the general plan amendment, the project would conform to the general plan. The project, as I mentioned before, is currently zoned Pheasant Hill Specific Plan, RM15, R1B, and the zone change and the specific plan amendments to bring the project into the downtown specific planning area, Paseo Santa Fe District, is being requested tonight. And the Paseo Santa Fe District, just for information, it does allow for either commercial or residential development, and the maximum density, again, at 40 dwelling units per acre. The site development plan and the tentative subdivision map are accompanying the rest of the entitlements. And with the approval of the zone change, the project would conform to the downtown specific plan. There's a particular condition, an engineering condition 4A, which has to do with dedications and improvements, that the city actually was requesting a vacation of unused right-of-way along Lado de Loma, which would be 8 feet northerly of the proposed face of the AC dike, but that is no longer required or needed, so therefore we are proposing to delete that condition from the conditions of approval. So staff's recommendation tonight is to adopt the resolution recommending City Council approve of the mitigated neg deck, the mitigation monitoring reporting program for the 183 residential apartment units at Lado de Loma. And the second recommendation is to recommend City Council approval of the general plan amendment, the zone change, the specific plan amendment, the site development plan, and the tentative subdivision map for the 183 apartment units. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant does have a presentation tonight, and they'll be sharing that with you. Unless you have questions for staff, we can address those, or they can go right into their presentation, depending on what you'd like me to do next. So thank you very much.
Any questions for staff, or should we hear from the applicant? Applicant.
Thank you, Director Chow. Good evening, Chairman Rosler and members of the Planning Commission, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Lev Gershman. I'm the founding and managing partner of Tideline Partners. I live at 5363 Bragg Street, San Diego, California. I'm joined here by a member of our architecture team, Kevin Schiller with Safdie Rabinas Architects, as well as our engineering and design team behind me here. After 2.5 years of working closely with staff, our neighbors, and adopting the guidance we received from you in May of last year, we're excited to share the refined and improved Kensho project. Kensho is located in the heart of the South Santa Fe Arts District and is designed and programmed to help fulfill the goals of the Downtown Community Plan. We gathered the best-in-class, most talented designers and engineers to bring the project to life. Project architect Safdie Rabinas has prestigious national awards from the American Institute of Architecture. The landscape architect Schmidt Design Group has over 70 awards from the American Society of Landscape Architects and the American Public Works Association. The project team has over 20 Orchid Awards from the San Diego Architectural Foundation. At Tideline Partners, our mission is simple. It's to make places better. We solve for economic value, cultivate community, and work to protect the environment. In the words of Mark Twain, doing the right thing will gratify some and astonish the rest. The latter seems to bring media coverage to our projects, broadcasting the renaissance of this wonderful downtown. As you can see by our work in downtown, we're a committed long-term partner working with the city and the community to help achieve the goals of the Downtown Community Plan. Safdie Rabinas Architects is driven by its mission to create meaningful places. Their designs evolve from an appreciation of the extraordinary beauty of our region, and they envision interior and exterior spaces as one, intending to blur the line between building and garden. Schmidt Design Group Landscape Architecture emphasizes balancing artistic design with environmental sensitivity. They're dedicated to creating signature spaces that reflect the character and the vision of the community. I particularly love the examples shown here of their work: the Solana Beach Coastal Trail, the San Elijo Nature Center, and the familiar Stone Brewery in Escondido. Downtown Vista is a special place. Defined by its unique topography, climate, and small scale, it stands apart from the other cities in North County. The renaissance of the downtown is thoughtfully guided through the Downtown Specific Plan with goals that align with the general plan to improve sustainability, reduce greenhouse gases, support healthy and diverse community, and provide a variety of housing options. The Downtown Community Plan is designed to reestablish downtown as a vibrant and cultural heart of the city. Since the Downtown Community Plan was established, the state eliminated the redevelopment agency, and with it, some of the city's essential tools. Of the 1,400 residential units planned for the Downtown Specific Plan, only a few hundred have been delivered in the last decade. Most of the land is already improved with commercial and residential buildings. The small lot sizes along South Santa Fe and Mercantile make for a charming, fine-grained character, but limit the ability to deliver the housing units to meet the community plan goals. We're asking to absorb the project into the immediately adjacent Downtown Community Plan, and in doing so, help activate the public realm, support small business along the corridor, and help the city achieve its community plan goals. While the property may be seasonally have a green look, it quickly turns to fire hazard brush. Blight, vandalism, neighborhood disturbance, trash dumping are issues we deal with frequently. We've had arson fire that, thanks to the Great Vista Fire Department, was contained quickly. These issues will persist and remain a liability until the site's developed. We see these challenges as an opportunity to create and maintain beautiful green space. 50% of the project site is green space, and grow the downtown community. Borrowing from the Zen Buddhist tradition, we've nicknamed the project Kensho to help guide our team on the journey. Kensho, translated as seeing nature, or one's true nature, captures the guiding principles of preserving green space and enhancing the mind and body connection with nature. We're committed to more sustainably connecting people with amenities and increasing the diversity of housing options. I'm going to hand it over to our architect to share a little bit about the design with you.
Thanks, Lev. So we heard a lot about the numbers from Ms. Chow, and so we wanted to show a little bit about the inspiration and how we came up with the design. So when we start a project, we kind of want to learn about the area. We take the legacy, character, and development goals of the area. I think we were particularly inspired with Vista about the districts and the areas, the public art that's been everywhere when we were looking around and visiting, the development goals about looking towards the past and paying homage to the history, but also thinking about development and the future and doing that intelligently. Talk a little about the site plan. Really, one of the special things about the site is the topography. So we let that try to inform the shape of the building. You can see here on the image, the building's kind of taking a very soft S shape, really trying to follow the topography of the site. This also allowed us to be able to tuck the building into the hillside, which helped mitigate some of the height concerns we'll show in a couple slides in the future. Also, massing was a big concern for us as well. So what we used is some bridges to break up the massing of the building. These allow for light and also view corridors to see through the building. We thought was important. We also located the smallest building, Building 4, towards Guajome to be in kind with the adjacent residential buildings at the same scale. Also very important is safe pedestrian access. We want to make sure that we're providing infrastructure with this project, both on-site and off-site, to promote and encourage pedestrian access and travel. We have a great downtown. We have great office, businesses, restaurants close by that we want to make sure are walkable for the residents. There's also other modes of transportation that are directly adjacent. We have the Sprinter Rail. We have the forthcoming future Inland Rail Trail, which is great for cyclists, and want to make sure that the infrastructure for our project are encouraging these different multimodal ways of transportation. We've worked with Circulate San Diego to make sure our project is mobility certified. A little bit about the landscape plan. This is a zoom in of the site map. Like we mentioned before, about 50% of the site is actually landscaped. We're looking at using native and sustainable plants throughout the project, preserving mature trees on the site when we can, introducing coastal oaks and citruses to kind of homage to the history of the agriculture of Vista, making sure that the selection of plants also meet the character that's already established around the neighborhood. Also, kind of Lev kind of shows some images of what that slope looks like now, but kind of really revitalizing that hillside, which really serves as a green buffer to Lado de Loma and the neighbors. Some of the body or inspiration images, which we even included some of the neighborhood context. Also, the project is going to focus on wellness. We want to make sure the amenities kind of coincide with that. We're using cold plunge, pool, gym, a playground for the residents. Also, some amenity areas. We are trying to focus on smaller amenity areas for small group congregation. These are some visualizations. This one's looking from the amenity building, the gym. It kind of shows some of the aspects that we talked about design, tucking into the hill. If you look at the left, you can kind of see the building's actually really tucked into the hillside. We're also orienting back towards the residential portion of the building and keeping it away from Lado. So we're trying to kind of keep the focus of the energy towards the inwards of the building and not towards Lado de Loma. We are trying to really landscape it well. We're including trellises to help get a landscape overhead and really try to maximize that, kind of the screening of the buildings from the project itself and from the neighbors. Another view similar to the one before, we're looking at the amenity area, looking back at the project. This is actually one of the views that we talked about with these bridges that we broke up the massing of the building, so it brings light, brings views through the space. We're using kind of plant selection and location to screen the building again from our residents and also from the neighboring buildings as well. One more view looking back at the hillside. This is looking towards Lado de Loma, kind of the revitalization of that slope, big trees, and kind of small congregation spaces. This was some sections we did showing the building height. As Ms. Chow mentioned, we lowered each of the buildings 1, 2, and 3 by 1 story. This is a graphic showing the blue line actually depicts the ground floor or the street level of Lado. It's not actually the site, so it's actually this is actually the street level that blue line is indicating, but the residential levels are at or below that level. The red line shows the existing grade, kind of shows the concept that we are tucking that building in. We're lowering the building. We have subterranean areas for parking, so trying to really, tuck that building into the hillside and drop the height. The red dashed line is indicating the max height that we're allowed to build to, that we're respecting that, and most times we're far below that. A couple quick landscape visualizations. These are from Lado, looking over buildings 1, 2, and 3. We did 2 vignettes, one at completion. This would be day 1 when people move in, and then at full maturity, the planting. So kind of really showing the intent of the landscape screening the building. On the right there are some fencing inspiration photos. We talked to the neighbors, and they really wanted something that had visibility but also security. So these are just some inspiration images for that. This is looking above Building 2. Again, at completion, we're keeping these large trees. These are the pepper trees kind of at the corner. So trying to maintain those and help kind of screen the building from the neighbors. Again, some more inspiration photos for fencing options. And then the last view, looking over Building 3, again, completion and maturity with the intent of screening the building as much as we can, and then some more fencing inspirations on the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. As you can see, commissioners, a lot of thought and energy went into the refinement of this project since we started 2.5 years ago. We held a community town hall, worked closely with our neighbors, some of which are here. Hi, Lisa. Transit agencies and city staff. This process and the guidance we received from you last May helped us refine and create a better project. Specifically, Chairman Rosler, per your guidance, we made sure to add the playground in a convenient and close proximity to the gym and the seating areas, and we increased the sizes of the micro units by 10%. Commissioner Looney, we addressed your concern about building height. Obviously, this was echoed by everyone on the commission and members of the community, thus the reduction in building height. It was also echoed by the student commissioners who are here today. Commissioner Aguilera, who's not on the commission anymore, but these concerns were echoed by other members as well. Access, safe access into the project. We added a dedicated 75-foot turning lane. We worked closely with city and NCDT, SANDAG, and the California Public Utilities Commission, as well as our traffic engineers, to ensure safe access into the project and out of the project into downtown. In closing, I want to highlight 4 key areas of improvements as we are appearing in front of you again tonight. First, we addressed the most pressing concern around safety and access. We removed project access from Lado de Loma, which was a big concern in the neighborhood, and added a dedicated turn lane, as I shared, from Guajome. We improved vehicle circulation within the project, buffering the neighbors and reducing the area of impervious blacktop. We worked with city and transit agency engineers to enhance the sidewalk improvements and pedestrian safety, connecting into the downtown and all the way up to Eddy Drive. Second, as noted, not an easy task, but we reduced the project intensity by removing a floor from building 1, 2, and 3. And you saw in Kevin's section slides, buildings are now essentially below the elevation of Lado de Loma, except for the 900 square foot amenity space on building 2. The project tucks into the hillside and into the character of the neighborhood. Affordability. We made a self-imposed commitment to deliver 13% of the project as deed-restricted moderate income units. We did this prior to the inclusionary housing ordinance being passed. We think it's an important element, the missing middle. There's no tax credit financing available to deliver this product. Because we revised the project and removed some of the 4-bedroom and 3-bedroom units and added some of the smaller units, we now have naturally occurring moderate income units. We anticipate, based on market pricing, that another 10% of the project will fit into the moderate income price levels for rent. So we're deed restricting 13%, and we think we'll have another 10% of naturally occurring moderate income for a total of 23 moderate income rents. The design has come a long way. I think we heard a comment along the lines of the hideous gray or the blocky thingy. And yes, it's come a long way, and we knew that was more of a volume study. We knew it was never going to look like that. But we created a gradual step back from Guajome into the project site, reducing the experience of the scale. We created a soft transition from the street. We moved away from the big block volumes to shorter buildings with fluid curves that follow the topography and the ancient flow of the South Santa Fe Valley. We appreciate your time and this opportunity to present this project, and we welcome your questions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Questions for staff or the applicant? Commissioner Looney.
Thank you. For staff, was the applicant ever before city council? I mean, did they start with city council before they came to us?
This particular, you're asking about Tightline Partners being before city council? I believe you were, because of the general plan amendment. They have to go before like a preliminary discussion, although I was not involved at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Grimm?
This is for the applicant. I noticed that the majority of your units are studio and 1-bedroom. I'm just wondering what your experience has been in terms of, I know you produced a lot of units in different areas, in terms of parking, and often a 1-bedroom unit may have produced two people that drive. What's been your experience with that, and does that add additional problems having 1-bedrooms and studios?
Good question. So it's really neighborhood and market specific. I think you have areas that are heavily impacted. We have a project in downtown Vista known as Found Lofts. It's 42 units. We have 57 parking spaces, and we have empty parking spaces. That project has a composition of predominantly studios and 1-bedrooms and 3 2-bedrooms. So people are choosing to either not own a car or park on the street in that project in downtown.
Thank you.
Commissioner Looney?
Yeah. Question for Civil, or for Pasco. Will? Thank you. It's a simple one. Sure. Along the railroad tracks, we've got some retaining walls. They seem to vary in height from 10 feet to 16 feet. How are these being landscaped, or are they being landscaped?
So we left a buffer between the railroad right-of-way and the face of wall specifically to leave space for that landscaping. Some of it is being utilized for stormwater management as well. So I think that buffer varies from a minimum of 3 feet for plantings.
Okay, do we have any plantings within the wall itself?
Within the wall itself, not currently designed.
And is that a keystone wall? Is it a poured-in-place wall? Is it a concrete block wall?
I think the intent is for it not to be a CMU wall. The specific material is still to be determined for final design.
Okay. I think it's going to be important that the visual aspects of that wall be addressed because of the height. I think it's good that we've got that landscape buffer in front of that. However, if they are deciduous trees, then we're looking at a lot of wall that can be somewhat unattractive. I just want to make sure that that's designed appropriately and it's landscaped appropriately so it looks good. That was my main concern. And then we've got some tall walls towards Lotto de Loma, but those seem to be buried in the landscaping and within the grading, so they're really exposed to the amenities of the development rather than to the general public.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I thought there were vines proposed to grow up the retaining wall along the,
Fortunately, we have our landscape architect to speak to that.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yeah, so for along that 3-foot stretch, we will have vines. There's some stormwater, also a maintenance path for access, but we do intend on having vines that grow up, also vines that cascade down. And as we heard from the past city review, the wall is intended to be a more decorative nature and not just a standard CMU block wall.
Okay, I think, get some texture. We had one particular project at the far end of town where it was just plain concrete keystone, and it still doesn't look very good. So I just don't want that to happen again. Another question, how or what steps are in place to ensure that the landscaping is properly maintained between the building and between Lotto de Loma? Because that's quite a hillside, it's steep, and I'd just like to know what steps you've taken to ensure that 10 years from now, it's still going to look like we see in these diagrams.
Sure. Yeah, the plant material that we're specifying is predominantly native, so the intent is for it to establish itself over time. We're going to have permanent irrigation, so the irrigation should be able to help it establish itself within the first couple of years, and because it's native, you could even potentially turn the irrigation off seasonally if you don't need to use it at all. That further reduces your energy usage. But in terms of like long-term growth, it's just part of maintenance and operation. But the steepness of the hillside shouldn't preclude the plants from establishing themselves. And we'll make sure to use plants that root themselves in and provide slope stabilization as well, with a mix of ground covers, shrubs, and small trees.
Okay,
And
thank you.
large trees as well.
very good. Anyone else? I had a couple of questions. You're proposing a tentative map with this, is that for a lot consolidation? Any plans to go for a condo and permit in the future?
The tentative map is to consolidate the underlying lots, and the project will actually be 2 lots in the final configuration. And those lots are for the 2 main buildings that are on the property.
Okay, very good. You have bike storage proposed in the project. Just happened to see on the news the other night, people were replacing their batteries in their electric bikes with aftermarket batteries, and there's a fire hazard. Have you thought about that at all in your project?
Don't tell our insurance agent about that story.
No.
Certainly, we're really big on mobility and car independence. Our Found Lofts project has 12 all-weather electrified bike lockers. We have some tenants using them. We'd like to see more tenants using them. We're definitely going to have electrified bike lockers and bike facilities. Absolutely. We're right at the trailhead to the Inland Rail Trail. It's a must.
All right. And then on your Studio A, the floor plan, I think it was 381 square feet, just short of our 400 square foot requirement. Have you done a layout? How are you anticipating people to lay out their furniture in that small space?
Yeah, so we do have kind of an open concept floor plan. We did provide floor plans, I believe, in our submittal at the very end of the sheet. So we do have kind of an open kitchen layout, allowing for flexibility of the living space. So we try to maximize the living usually with these sizes, we don't really have a formal dining room. So really the best the best we can do is create the open floor plan, keep the kitchen as small as possible, out of the way, so that the tenant has flexibility to use the space as they need to. But
Are you anticipating Murphy beds or how are they laying out?
so we've seen people use Murphy beds. There's actually a lot of companies now that create transitional beds that can move out of the way. But really, we leave that to the tenant. But we have seen people just have a bed there with a dining table, that's it, or use Murphy beds or convertible couches.
Okay.
It's pretty popular.
All right, I'm going to
I
be
can add
interested
a-
to see how that turns out.
I can add to that, and we'd be happy to give you a tour at Found Lofts. We have a number of units that are in this size range, and we have 2 units that have Murphy beds, and I think we ended up taking one of them out because did we take one out? One of them. We still have them. So, of the 42 units we have, the ones that have the lowest vacancy and least the fastest are the smallest units. It's certainly a price point issue, but they lay out really nicely.
Okay, all right. And you're going to have an on-site manager for the project?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for the staff of the applicant? Commissioner Looney?
One question for staff. With the ever-changing ADU laws, does this project in any way lend itself to ADUs being added to the footprint?
There are particulars related to ADU laws about multifamily and converting portions of an apartment complex for ADU purposes. So one can imagine that as laws continue to change, that could still be possible or a possibility ever now or in the future as to what happens.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. I do have speaker slips. I'm going to call your name, and then I'm going to suggest that I'm going to call the next person or tell who's going to be in our on-deck circle so you can be prepared to come up, and we'll get through this as quickly as possible. You will have 3 minutes, and council's changed the system in the building, and when the red light goes off, the microphone goes off also. So just to warn you, when that light turns amber, you should think about wrapping up. If someone else has already spoken on a topic that you are concerned about or agree with, please just reference the previous speaker so we can get you through your 3 minutes. So the first one I have is William Moore, followed by Tyler Pine.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Will Moore. I'm the policy attorney for Circulate San Diego. Circulate San Diego is a nonprofit whose mission is to create excellent mobility choices and vibrant, healthy neighborhoods. We have a program called the Mobility Certification Program. Now, that's a program that's basically we put together a panel it's an independent volunteer committee with expertise in the areas of development, active transportation, and neighborhood design. And this panel independently evaluates projects that come before us. The Circulate Mobility Certification Panel has evaluated the Kincho project and determined that it meets our objective criteria for a sustainable growth project in the San Diego region. There are a few particular highlights that I want to bring out, and I noted these in the letter that we sent you. The project takes advantage of some recent investments the City of Vista has made to improve walkability and multimodal transport. Traffic calming designs along South Santa Fe Avenue and specifically the Vista Transit Center about half a mile away. The existing and planned bicycle infrastructure and the future inland rail trail, which is a proposed 21-mile Class 1 bicycle facility, is nearby, which provides a lot of options for these 183 families that will live in this property. Project is accessible by excellent transit options. The Breeze Bus and the Sprinter train are nearby, as is the Transit Center. And it's in walking distance of downtown Vista, which is an excellent amenity. And best of all, it does not require the creation of any new traffic-generating road infrastructure. So overall, the committee at Circulate's Mobility Certification Committee has looked at this program and found it to be a exceptional program, and we strongly urge your support of this development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler, is it Pine?
Like Prince with no R.
Followed by Sid Rothenberg.
All right. Good evening. I'm Tyler Pence. I'm a homeowner here in Vista and a proud graduate of the City of Vista's Leadership Academy. My girlfriend grew up here. I have family here, and I've grown to love this city dearly in the few years that I've lived here. I'm here today to express my support for this project, along with a couple of concerns. So there's so many housing projects being built and proposed in Vista lately, and as much as it pains me to admit, it's clear that densification is inevitable and more is coming to our city. To me, the Kensho project is an opportunity to help tackle our city's housing supply problems, while paying homage to our city's rich history. My concern, like many of my neighbors, is traffic and parking. I use Guahomie to get to Lowe's and Fraser Farms, and the thought of 200-plus cars coming in and out of that lot does bother me. So I'd like to see a ratio closer to 1 parking space per bedroom if the city can negotiate it. The street I live on is called Peach Grove Lane. When I told that to Terry at Vista Electronics, he said, "Classic Vista." I think this project, with its huge open space and unique architecture, could be a new generation of that classic Vista that I love. It's not another box with half-vacant retail on the ground floor. It helps the city toward its goal of delivering more housing units, and it's being built by a team who only works in Vista, who knows our city and even the neighbors and local business owners by name. I watched a few commission hearings for housing projects on the city's YouTube channel. Most of the developers seem to bull their way through the process and just build huge projects by right, while seeming to pay lip service to the community until they get the building up. The historic Women's Center at the church site got demolished as soon as the developer closed escrow. I think with Kensho, we have a development team with outstanding credentials, willing to hear our voices and give our city something that it needs. As much as it bothers me to see this town get more crowded, I think a project like Kensho is a very happy compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Sid Rothenberg, followed by Julia Schreiber.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I live in the neighborhood of this project, and I probably stand alone when I say that I am unequivocally opposed to this project. The prospect of 183 units with an allocation of 266 parking spaces is abhorrent. The Planning Commission is focused on the housing project itself and not the traffic and effect on the existing single-family residents in the neighborhood. What is not evident is an analysis of existing and projected traffic, the means of mitigating the existing traffic congestion on Guahomie Street and Lado de Loma, nor a transparent public report by the city's traffic engineering department of the effects of additional traffic and daily car passes in an already confined and narrow roadway. We do know that in February 2021, the city counted 4,646 car passes on Lado de Loma. What we do know is that the community development and planning staff approve and recommend this project because it meets all the city's building requirements. The staff and the Planning Commission has done their job in this regard. All that remains is a rubber stamp of approval from the Planning Commission and a zoning change by the City Council. Perhaps it is time to consider and take a different path. There must be a reason these 7 parcels of land have been in various development discussions since 2007, 16 years. What we do know is that during the early district meetings for Vision 2050, the residents of every district said they wanted more green spaces. This sloping 4.59 acres provides that opportunity to complete the downtown beautification and create a downtown city park. As the developers noted, the property is only a half-mile from the transit hub. All Vistans from every district could access this park. The 4.59 acres would provide a large green space and off-leash dog park for all Vista citizens, visitors, and residents of the high-density housing already deliberately being created in the downtown area. Green spaces are calming spaces, noise reduction spaces, environmental air cleaning spaces, and happy spaces. If Vista can find the money to purchase 2.27 acres at 536 Madigal Drive for an inaccessible park above appraised value, Vista can find the money to purchase these 7 parcels of land to create a much-needed downtown city park. Carpe diem, seize the opportunity to do the right thing, as quoted by the developer. Leave a better legacy for all citizens 100 years from now. Create a city park, not a 183 housing complex with 266 plus cars that don't fit the existing residential area, 400 single-family properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia Shiver, followed by Lisa Malk. Go ahead.
Our focal point on 165 Eucalyptus with the developer. A said EIR report in-house said there was not going to be a traffic problem. We know that is bogus. This is going to be worse. I go that way to Fraser Farms. You can't expand the street. And you told me for every 1 bedroom, 1 bath, you can expect 2 cars. 2 bedrooms, 2 bath, 4 cars. Don't do it. We don't have to let a developer in here. If it's not going to be a good thing for Vista and the traffic, you're going to lose businesses. It's zoned for housing, keep it that way. Unless he can build a bridge going over the houses to 78, you're going to cause the worst traffic jam, even worse than Eucalyptus. Thank you.
Lisa, followed by Duncan Craig.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Lisa Moak, and I live within a half-mile of the proposed project. As you know, this is the most units to ever be approved in the city of Vista, and it's proposed to the west of the railroad tracks, and it will be surrounded by single-family residences. With that being said, the developer has worked diligently with the surrounding neighbors. I would like to say, before I say my other points, the point made about the 1-to-1 parking ratio makes sense if you're promoting smart growth, and if you truly are using the Sprinter or the bicycle path, then make it 1-to-1 and try to avoid as much traffic that would ultimately end up on Guajome. The selling points of the project are the fact of the open space, the mature trees, and the roof line. So I have a couple questions. One is, would the commission consider a condition that requires that the map is recorded with a note that it will remain an open space in perpetuity? The second is, and I believe this is a condition, and the developer agrees to this, that all efforts will be made to keep the mature trees in place. And I have a question regarding the amenities building. My understanding is it's 900 square feet, and my question is, as viewed from Lado de Loma, what would the width be as you see it? And is that where the green space trellises, or is that something different? And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Duncan? Followed by Haley and Austin Zito. Go ahead.
Chairman, Pheasant Hills. It never ceases to amaze me how developers name their projects after things they've destroyed. No more pheasant, and pretty soon, no more hills. I've lived on Lotto de Loma for 23 years, 100 yards from where you want to put this monstrosity. Kensho, seeing nature, really? It's going to be made of concrete. It's going to look like the Vista Jail. In line with the neighborhood? That's ridiculous. Not only are there no sidewalks in Lotto de Loma, there are no shoulders. People walk their dogs there. The children play there. And if you think that the traffic routing is going to come down South Santa Fe and make a nice little left in Guajome and go into the complex, you're wrong. Pretty soon people are going to know you get off 78 and take Lotto de Loma. It's the shortest way between the two legs. At rush hour, Santa Fe is hell now. Another issue is soil compaction and topography. Lotto de Loma means hillside. Is the city of Vista going to be liable if the hillside slides down into that complex like it happened last January down the road? The whole complex had to be evacuated. It crushed a couple cars. No on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Haley and Austin Zito. Followed by Rachel Blay.
Good evening. So I'm actually located at 404 Lotto de Loma, which is the, I think, most impacted property in the entire project. We are situated behind Building 3 and to the left of Building 2, if that's correct. I will say that something will go here eventually. I think that Lev and the team really do have Vista's best interest at heart when it comes to creating something that's good for Vista. I will echo the concern previously said by others about the traffic and making sure we figure out how to mitigate usage of Lotto de Loma. It's an extremely small street, and the more people that we have there, the more dangerous it'll become. My expressed concerns are the privacy and light pollution issue. So this actually faces both ways. The problem is that there's decks that are going to be facing Lotto de Loma. With this report that this is about, it says that there will be no addition of light pollution or noise pollution. My concern is that the decks and the light will be facing directly into my home and the homes of others on Lotto de Loma. What I'm hoping is that the commission would consider adding a condition that says that the staff will work with the adjacent property owners and the landscaping next to them. So I'd like to see that there's mature trees that are blocking this property from us so that we don't have people staring into our backyards, into our windows. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Beld, and I'm the President and CEO of the Vista Chamber of Commerce. I'm here tonight to share our support of this project. Vista has a critical need for housing. We absolutely need more housing units. That's no secret. And the businesses in the downtown need additional foot traffic. On Santa Fe, the area just adjacent to this project, we have a number of vacancies in brand new developments that have been vacant for 7 years. In order to attract retail and other types of businesses, we need foot traffic in this area. Units like this can bring foot traffic to our downtown. This design is beautiful and thoughtful. It includes amenities that you don't get really at any other complexes in Vista. Maybe the Ryland has some of these features, but it's really cutting edge and an exciting place. The project also includes more than the required amount of affordable units and were proposed even before the city's inclusionary housing rule. As the developer mentioned, they worked with the transit agencies to improve safety, even more safe than it is now. So I think that that is very admirable. And we've heard again and again how the applicant has worked with the neighbors, the businesses, and the chamber, many organizations, in order to amend and change this project to get to the place that everyone can agree as much as possible. And just speaking again of Lev and his team at Tideline, they have a history of being a great community partner, listening and being thoughtful as they navigate through the process. If you look at just the example of the mural that's on Found Lofts and the story of the evolution of that mural, you'll see examples of their partnership and their camaraderie with the community. And lastly, taking off my chamber hat, as a resident of the city of Vista, I live near the downtown, and I absolutely support projects like this. We need housing. As someone mentioned before, something will go here. Why wouldn't we want a project as beautiful and thoughtful and with a partner as compromising and amenable as Tideline Partners? Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is my last speaker's slip. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the commission on this project? I'm going to close the public hearing, and that's the end of public comment. Everybody clear on that? Okay. All right. I'm closing the public hearing and opening it up to commission discussion. Commissioner Savage.
First, I have a quick question for Patsy. Did we find out when those speed bumps are going on Lotto de Loma?
They will be discussed as I looked at the schedule at the council meeting October the 10th. And if they are supported for moving forward sometime early next year for possible installation on Lotto de Loma. I spoke with the traffic engineer, with Sam Hassanen, on that.
Okay, cool, thank you. It sounds like that'll be done before the project is complete, obviously. So, yeah, I think that was one of the biggest concerns that I heard from the public, at least 4 times mentioned, is the through traffic on Lotto de Loma. I have another traffic concern, but I don't know if these 266 people will be going the other direction for the daily commute. So it's a concern of mine. But what I was initially concerned with on this project was the access to South Santa Fe. That roundabout has a lot of traffic built up. But it sounds like the intersection that's causing a lot of that trouble is all the way down at Vista Way in South Santa Fe. And the city's working on fixing that problem. It seems to be because of the train. So one side of that issue seems like it will be solved. On the other side, city plans for mitigating traffic on the Lotto de Loma side of things. I don't really know what the traffic issues are, but it seems like the traffic report didn't have any issues on the connection to East Vista Way from Lotto de Loma. So sounds like the public has a big interest in that. I didn't really see it in the traffic report, but it's definitely something to consider here. I have a couple other comments, but I kind of want to get my thoughts together. So,
Okay. Commissioner Hastings.
I do like this project. I also acknowledge the concern of the neighbors and the neighborhood about the big increase in residences in a pretty much single-family neighborhood. However, I really am concerned about the general lack of housing for just ordinary people, which I think this provides some of. So I think it's pretty. I think it's well thought out. I have some of the same concerns that other people have had about some of the landscaping issues adjacent to the tracks. I think that needs to be addressed. But in general, I would
like to see this. I also, the concern, maybe it does need to be a condition, I don't know how you address it particularly, about the issues of the light pollution for the neighbors across the street. You know, do we want to address that or not?
Well, the city ordinance right now, as I understand it, prohibits light, direct light from leaving the site. They have to do a photometric study that shows that, analyzes the light sources on the property and shows that that direct light does not leave the property. So the city ordinance controls that. But we might see if we can add some additional landscaping to address her concern.
Yeah, as long as it's, the developer is either committed, truly committed to following the regulation there, or a condition, I don't know which is more important.
So the ordinance cited by Commissioner Rossler it's spoken to in the mitigated negative declaration, and it would be, the project would be subject to those requirements, even without it being a condition of approval. It might be helpful to have the applicant speak to their landscaping plan and where they plan to put those mature trees and the placement along the border of concern.
Liv?
I surround myself by people smarter than myself. Todd?
Sure. Okay. Yep. Hey, everybody, Todd Scheckinger, the landscape architect with Schmidt Design Group. So the concern from what I hear is along the tracks predominantly, and
No, this is right,
Her home was off of
facing Lado de Loma.
Loma.
so the
The
space,
end of the building
space
there.
between between the development and the existing homes on Lotto.
Yes.
Yeah, we've taken great care to heavily plant that edge with a large mature buffered trees as much as we can. We tried to kind of really pack them in there because we understand that there is sensitivity to that. So along the let's see. Yeah, along the west side of the property as it borders, it's heavily buffered with, which will become mature vegetation, but we can go in with larger sized trees, but the intent is that we will provide a significant buffer for those homeowners.
You recall what size box trees those are along there on the plan?
I think we provided a variety of 24s and 36s.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something to add, and Todd actually provided us an estimate on this. I think our landscaping budget is approaching, how much? $1.5 million, just on plants. So yeah, we're big on plants.
Okay. Commissioner Looney.
Thank you. Patsy, could you reiterate the improvements that are being made on Lado de Loma, where we have that steep portion of the property coming up to the street?
I have a slide, so I just wanted to get to that as I'm speaking about it. Actually, Michael, would you go back one slide? Sorry. One more. Guajome, it's Guajome's proposed improvements right there. So is that what you're referring to, Commissioner Looney? Or the additional on the north side sidewalk and south side sidewalks?
The uphill road on Lado de Loma.
Okay, so there's reference to, sorry, I can go back. I think I can go back on this. Let me see here.
So if you stay at that,
I know I do have one that actually itemizes the item, so I just wanted to refer to that. These right here, the offside pedestrian improvements. On the north side of Guajome Street and Lado de Loma, there will be actually a sidewalk on the north side from 201 Guajome all the way to Eddy Drive, right before Vista Village.
this is on Lado de Loma.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, towards Vista Village Center. And then there is another connection sidewalk on the south side of Guajome Street that's also connecting the boundary of the project on the western side to Mercantile Street.
Michael, go to the next slide that shows the overall site plan. Maybe the 1, 2 after that. There. Okay, we see subject project site.
Mm-hmm.
directly below that word is a bend in the road where we have Lotto de Loma. According to the civil drawings, there's street improvements being made to that portion of the property.
On Lado de Loma, where there is, I guess I'd need a little more clarification on this aerial and as to what you were referring to.
Well, I'm looking at sheet C4.
Yes, Commissioner Looney. Along the edge of the roadway, we're installing a DG sidewalk pedestrian path adjacent to the existing edge of asphalt.
Okay, okay. Because I see on your sheet that it's shaded, meaning that there's improvements going to be made. And I was just kind of playing off of what we heard, that there is no walkway, but in fact, there is being modifications made to that edge of the street to ensure a greater margin of safety than what currently exists. Okay,
Correct.
Thank you, Will.
Patsy, remind us again how the city ensures that this open space area will be maintained and in the future and will remain open space.
It is not a designated open space, so I need to clarify that for the record. There's not an easement over it. However, it is part of the project as designed and through the entitlement process, conditioned as such, through the conditions of approval as to what is expected to come with the project and stay with the project. Unless there is modifications to the project and they come back for an amendment, they would have to go through the entire process through the Planning Commission and the City Council as decision-making process, just like it is now for any future amendment. So right now, as it is proposed and designed, it is as shown on the drawings that are attached to the exhibit to the plans.
Okay. So it's open space shown on the plan, and if they want to do anything else with it other than open space, they have to come back here to a public hearing. You all be notified, and we'll go through this whole process again. So going forward with the amenities, sidewalk, light pollution, the original, or in the past, we saw the single-family subdivision on the property. There were 24 units that were proposed. If I recall that tentative map, there were retaining walls on at least two sides of each lot to get the flat pad for a single-family home in, and it had access to Lotto de Loma. So I think they've done a good job of incorporating the hillside into their project and eliminating the access to Lotto de Loma. I like the access off of Guajome. So, commissioners, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Grimm.
Yeah, this is one of those projects the Planning Commission seems to get once or twice a year where it's just really difficult to figure out what land use to put on a particular piece of property. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and there were a lot of good comments from the residents. The developer did a great job in putting their presentation together. So I kind of said, well, I need to kind of put together the pros and the cons of the project, and I'll start with the cons. I think, and I'm going to try to be as straightforward as possible, there is going to be massing on the side of that hill. I think the developer has done a pretty good job of reducing that massing, but it's going to be a fairly strong mass on the side of the hill. There's going to be additional density added to a single-family area. And what does that mean? Well, it does mean more traffic. It means more traffic on Guajome. I'm one of those people that does, when I go to Lowe's and I go to Fraser Farms, I take that cut. And I really haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't really had any problems on the street at this point. It flows pretty smooth. It is a narrow street. So I guess my take on that is it going to get worse? Yeah, it'll get worse. But is it terrible? Probably not. The other issue that I kind of alluded to a little earlier was because of the density, and you almost always get this in apartment units, you're going to get parking overflow. There just never seems to be enough parking spaces for an apartment project. You can look all over town, and at night especially, the streets are filled with additional cars on the streets. I don't, to be honest with you, though, I don't think that's going to affect the single-family neighborhood. What it's going to affect more is Mercantile Street, and it's going to affect the area down on South Santa Fe. And at some point, I think the city, and I've talked to Mr. Connolly about this, but at some point, the city will have to put in some additional parking in that area as you get more and more people living there. And you do get units that have, one bedroom but 2 cars. It's fairly common. So that's a concern. So those were kind of the negatives that I felt were reasonable things to really talk about. In terms of the pros for the project, I think, again, it's a difficult site. What else are you going to put there? Somebody mentioned a park. Sounds like a great idea, but I'm not so sure I want my kids playing next to the railroad track. Parks generate a lot of noise, especially on weekends. And so what else do you put there? Single family is probably not going to work there either. I mean, I don't think most people want to live next to a railroad track, or at least that close. I think another big thing that's been mentioned already is housing opportunities. We just don't have enough housing. Rents continue to go up. I just feel really bad for kids that are, my kids' age. They're really, trying to make it, and it's really difficult because their rents keep going up and up. And why do they keep going up and up? Because there isn't enough inventory. This will at least provide some inventory in Vista. And finally, lastly, I think for those of you that have been in Vista, and somebody mentioned they've been here 25 years, you can remember the downtown area where you could roll a bowling ball down and not hit a single soul because it was that bad. And, in the last, 7 years, the downtown has really been improved. You go down on a Wednesday night, it's a hopping place. And so what we need more residents to help support that. And I think this project, you're in easy walking distance of the downtown here, and I think this project would bring people in that would support that. And so those are my pros and cons. And lastly, I agree with I think we need an added condition regarding, if the project is passed, regarding mature trees. And I think they need to be spread all around the project. And I'm not saying you just take and blast every single tree that you show on your landscaping plan and make a giant tree out of it. But I think as a project's being built, especially a 4-story project, you need to give it scale. And to help give it scale, you need some mature trees in there. So I would support a condition or propose a condition to have that go all the way around the project with larger trees at a lot of different points so that you don't have to wait that 5 years for them to grow and make it better for the people that are looking down on it. And I don't know if the developer would be amenable to that or not, but I would be willing to propose a condition like that. And that concludes my comments.
Commissioner Looney.
Couple of questions for staff. Is it possible for us to put a condition on this project where there is no access from Lado de Loma onto the property? And the second point is, can we designate those slopes as non-buildable areas between Lado de Loma and the first proposed retaining wall that backs up to that development?
So regarding access, currently it is not shown as we all know it and shown on the drawings. If you're suggesting a condition that would re-emphasize that point as far as no opening whatsoever, I'm not sure that there is a negative or a adverse impact, I guess, that could be associated with that because it's already designed that way, not having access to Lado de Loma.
True. But
couldn't we add like a 1-foot closing strip that parallels the right-of-way that doesn't allow any access over it?
But what is the concern, I guess?
my concern is, with a creative architect, I can build 3 houses on that slope. Let's just say the ADU laws change. Okay, I can put 3 or 4 units on there and access off of Lado de Loma. What I want to try to do is to prevent that from happening. Again, the state and the federal government make their laws the way that they do. I'm just trying to circumvent that to where we can protect as much as we can and preserve that slope and preserve the character of that neighborhood by ourselves putting either a deed restriction or a building, a lien or something to where we don't have access to this parcel off of Lauder de Loma for any future development.
There are, and I have seen other projects where non-buildable easement areas are placed on a particular portion of the site for specific reason that you just mentioned, so that would prevent the very idea of that being a possibility in the future. I don't know how that would play out here or to what extent that would be covered by that possibility of an easement or something similar to that idea. But certainly I think there are tools that are out there that would prevent that from creating a possibility of further building, or like you were suggesting that somebody might have an idea of adding a unit or a house or an ADU or what have you as part of that slope area that is the issue of concern. So there are definitely ways of doing it, and I've seen it. I think it's just a matter of what could be worked out in this particular scenario to address the commission's concern.
I think it's worth a little bit of time and research because land is so expensive. And some of the projects that are being worked on now in the county, 20 years ago, we would never dream of building on them. Today we are. And they've developed new septic systems where they're above ground, where we can now build on rock. And Will's company, it's very creative in doing these kinds of things. I just want to try to preserve that slope and to preserve that rural character that we have on Lauder de Loma as much as we have power to. We can't prevent the structure from being built, but let's try to build in some safety measures that at least preserves what we do have left over. But I think it's worth a little bit of research. It's basically a deed restriction, but I don't know the legal aspects of that.
So what I would suggest is myself and staff look at that issue between now and the council hearing on this item and see whether we can look to add something. I'm not going to be able to tell you tonight there's a condition we can place because I'm doubtful that we will have much latitude there. But I can tell you I'll work with staff to look at the issue and see what we might be able to do.
Because I don't think the developer would be opposed to that. It's going to preserve the efforts and the design of the landscaping that has gone into it. It's going to be also preserving the grading that is being proposed. I know I'm not asking something simple, but I think it's worth a few phone calls and a little bit of study into what we can do with either a deed restriction or something else that goes.
I would suggest a closing strip that runs along Lauder de Loma that prohibits access from the Lauder de Loma to the street. I've seen that done before.
But I think there's something that, I think there's an opportunity here that needs to be researched further.
I think Commissioner Looney raises a good point. Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Savage, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my thoughts are together. Sorry about that. So the COA for the trees, for that particular issue, would you want the COA to maybe particularly be perimeter trees, increase the size of the perimeter trees? Or I know you were kind of mentioning throughout the project, but I think my biggest concern is along the homes on Lauder de Loma. So I would be, 1.5 million, it's creeping up there. So maybe, what would you think about maybe suggesting just on the perimeter to increase the size?
You're talking about my
Yeah,
condition I
yeah, yeah.
proposed? Like I said, I'm not trying to create an instant forest. I think appropriate locations around the site with just a few trees I'm talking about not just Lago de Loma, people that, from other angles, that are looking up at there when it's new and it's 4 stories up, it just, there's no softening. I'm talking about something to kind of soften those. So the way I would suggest it is have that to the discretion of the community development director, but that the idea being that you soften, using larger mature trees, you soften the view of the project by using sporadically, not, like I said, not a forest, but just sporadically using some additional trees around the site.
Okay, that clears that up. Thank you, yeah. I agree. I think that's a good addition there. As everybody said, the contestation here is, is this the right spot? Obviously, we need housing. I think the biggest contention would be the traffic. It seems like Vista's growing, and as it does, the real concern I think that I was getting from most people regarding the Lago de Loma pass-through is not congestion, but the speed at which people take Lago de Loma, which is why I asked Patsy if we could figure out when those speed bumps are coming in. I mean, another thing that I would suggest the public, invest in is figuring out if there's some way that we can put a traffic circle. And I know it's not a great spot for it, but where Lago de Loma meets Guajome, it's a weird spot. I have seen a couple downtown though that a couple roads that are really weird that they made work. I know it's going to be a big expense to try and get it to fit the topography it needs, but it might be something that could be considered by the city. I don't think that's really to be addressed here. Sounds like the speed bumps are coming in. I know I used to live right off this street, so that was my biggest problem was, turning off that street, somebody comes over that hill and they're just flying. So I don't think more traffic, I don't think that's really exactly the issue. On the Lago de Loma side, sounds like the city's fixing the other issue, which is gonna be where South Santa Fe meets Guajome. So a lot of the things that I came into this project thinking were gonna be issues with traffic seem to be solutions are coming from Vista. There's some forethought put there. So that was my biggest issue. I do just want to say to Tideline Partners, obviously you guys did an amazing job. I don't think we've seen a developer come through, and obviously before you guys got to us, you did a lot of work with the community, taking this Japanese architectural style and flowing with the hillside. Gave me goosebumps the first time you guys said that. So I was like, yeah, that's very cool. But on top of that, we asked you guys, the building height, how it was going to be interrupting the sight line. You not only took that, but you've thought through the fences, making sure that you can see through those fences, the bridges, the things you guys brought up, and then actually reducing the amount of square feet that you guys are going to get out of a development. Is a real investment in the community, and I really appreciate that. The pepper tree is staying. I know this is probably not a huge thing for everyone, but our favorite ice cream place in Vista is Pepper Tree, and that tree had to be chopped down. So you guys holding on to the pepper trees is a cool tip of the hat to Vista, and I appreciate that. The one thing too, the width of the amenities. I know somebody from the public was asking about that. Looks like they're 31 feet each in width, each of the buildings. I really don't think they get impacted. I mean, that's so far down. I don't know if that was the concern by the member of the public, but it's not really going to interrupt any kind of view. If you're looking from Lago de Loma, the entire amenities, the pool, all of that space is really tucked in behind the building. So I think that works out. In terms of the light pollution, sounds like we got that one solved, sorry. And then the open space in perpetuity, do we have that one as a COA? Okay. Yeah, that's all my thoughts. Very unorganized, but thank you.
Commissioner Grimm.
Actually, once that the city attorney indicated that we were going to move and do some research, because I don't think, to be honest with you, I think it's a great idea that Commissioner Looney had, but I don't think we can, if the state wants to put out legislation, they're going to override us. So I think anything we do to try to tie the hands of future councils. I'd like to do it, but I just don't think we can. But anyway, it's kind of moot, that point's kind of moot now, because they're going to do some research on it.
I think the access was a good solution. Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like from our discussion, we want city staff to take a look at the open space area, making sure that it stays as open space in perpetuity, maybe a closing strip if that makes sense, and we'll ask them to, Ms. Sky?
Thank you for repeating the open space issue. So you may recall, Patsy responded that currently the site plan, it includes all the landscaping and the landscaping plan. So in order to make any changes to that, they would have to return with another application to the commission for approval for those changes. We would have issues legally imposing an open space easement on the property from a nexus and proportionality standpoint. So I don't believe we can do that, but we wanted to assure you that it is a condition of the project because it's part of the site plan. They would have to come back for amendments to that site plan. So I do not see a condition that we would be placing with respect to the open space. There's already landscaping conditions, and they would have the site plan as part of their proposal.
So if they wanted to change anything on that open space area, change any of the landscaping, they'd have to come back here for a public hearing and amendment to the site development plan.
That's correct.
Okay. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. All right. I still would like us to consider the closing strip along Wada de Loma, a 1-foot easement to the city of Vista that prohibits access to the area, that open space area. Can we do that?
So in response to Commissioner Looney's request, I would suggest that be something we take back and research, myself and staff, to determine whether that is possible. If it is possible, it's something that can be included with the project when we go to council. I just can't, I wouldn't be able to commit to you right now in terms of the legality of adding that to this project.
Okay.
I would echo Ms. Guy on that concern only because I know from other projects when we've thought about easements and such, from an engineering perspective, and I know I'm a planner, however, I work with engineers every day, and I know their concerns are as to what is the function of the easement, what is it for, how long is it there, does the city have any, maintenance or any responsibilities associated with that? So it does get complicated more than what it is on the surface. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it sounds like we're down to mature trees to soften the view on the boundary of the project. Is that reasonable, Commissioner Savage?
I think we were kind of saying that it wouldn't be limited to the perimeter of the project, but identifying which ways to make the project softer. And I don't know how we're enforcing that exactly.
We're going to leave it up to the
Developer.
community development director to make sure that.
Right, but I just clarifying that I don't think the perimeter was the limit for that anymore.
All right.
Yeah.
And to some of the plant species, I mean, if they go with a particular type of oak, that oak tree will grow 2 to 3 feet a year.
Yeah.
So if they go with a 36-inch box with a 12 to 15-foot drip edge, in a matter of 5 years, it's going to be a very large tree. So just take that. Again, I think that needs to be coordinated with the landscape architect, and the plant palette is what's being proposed.
Okay.
To support that condition.
Commissioner Grimm?
Yeah, I have a possible condition, and hopefully it meets what we were talking about. But basically, just something to the effect the developer shall place large specimen trees at different points around the project to soften building height to the satisfaction of the community development director. It's very general.
Okay. Patsy, okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. So with that proposed condition, would someone like to make a motion? Commissioner Grimm.
I'll make a recommendation to move staff's recommendation with the additional condition that was added regarding the softening of the trees.
Pardon me, Commissioner. I just want to make sure that the engineering condition is also added for removal. Do you remember from the slides, Patsy had?
Made a reference to a condition,
Yes.
engineering condition to be removed.
Yeah, my motion would include that as well. And the tree, the thing we just talked about on trees, so.
There's been a motion to approve with our additional condition. Is there a second? Commissioner Hastings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of the project to the city council with the additional condition for mature trees. Please cast your vote. And the project is approved unanimously, 5-0. So, very good. All right. I'd like to thank the sheriff's deputy for handling the Rancho students. I appreciate that. All right, next item on our agenda are reports and comments from commission members. Any comments or reports? All right, Don?
Where does, is it Vista Del Rio? When are they going to open on Mar Vista? The Motel 6 that was converted to housing units?
They have been running into some issues with materials and building construction, and they actually asked for an extension of time of their discretionary permit in order to actually pull permits. Because if they don't pull permits by the time allotted, they have to request the extension of time. So they have done that already because they were going pretty close to that deadline. But they have run into some construction issues, and that's what's delayed their being able to move ahead.
Okay. And Community Church of Vista, their relocation to the corner of Civic Center and South Santa Fe.
It's been a little quiet. I've reviewed their building plans a few months back, but I have not heard. They were actually waiting for Park Avenue, the other project, to move forward, and they did with some demolition. There's some direct connection between one moving and the other moving as well, and for financial reasons otherwise that I'm aware of. But I hope that they are back on the front burner, but I have not seen them for the past several months since I last saw them through a plan check.
Okay. And Park Avenue is still moving forward?
To my knowledge, yes, the demolition did occur of that one portion of the project site, and they are in process of review at this point for construction that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Patsy.
Yep.
Are you our new student commissioner? Would you come and introduce yourself to us? And then next time you get a front row seat when you come. So. Microphone.
I'm Julie Takano. I go to Mission Vista High School, and I'm a current junior.
You're a student where?
Mission Vista High School.
Okay, very good. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
So, as this process goes on, if I don't call on you when we're doing commissioners' comments, raise your hand, throw something at me, and because I will forget to call on you guys, and I've been working on improving on that. So anyway, well, welcome, and we're glad to have you, and we look forward to your comments on future projects.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Ms. Chow, your report.
So we are having a meeting on October 17th That particular meeting, we're going to have several items, including 2 EDRs. So total 4 items at this point that we're looking at, 4 or 5, actually 4, kind of 4.5, so to speak. But the agenda is being prepared right now. And then from that meeting, the first meeting in November, we are also looking to have a meeting. There are about 3, 4 items on that agenda as well. So we'll continue to be busy with development projects review by the commission. We probably will not have the second meeting. And as a result of tonight's meeting, I am planning to take this before the city council on October 24th. And that's what we have. And we continue to be busy with a lot of pre-applications and a lot of requests from developers to meet with staff on potential sites for development throughout Vista.
By the way, Patsy, I will not be there for the November 6th.
No taken? Yes, as long as we have a 4 quorum, we should be okay. Yes, I will be calling on each and every one of you several weeks in advance and every day after that.
All right. Is there anything else this evening? Seeing none, we will stand adjourned until October 17th.